Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Melissa Miller, host of The Chosen Heroes, and as always, it is such an honor and privilege to spend my Sunday afternoon with all of you, this beautiful, beautiful community. So we have a great special guest today. Helen Naidis is joined us, and she's going to talk to us and give us some tips on how to be a successful digital warrior. So I'm going to jump into the news for this week with targeted justice. And let me get that on the screen. There we go. All right. So it's been an active time this week. I don't know if everybody's feeling this energy, but boy, it's been a stirring. So again, as always, let's continue our digital warrior campaign and copy and paste from the Targeted Justice newsletter content from Targeted Justice X, Facebook, Truth Social, TikTok, Instagram. There's lots of social media outlets. I really encourage those who have not yet created an X account to do so. It really is. It's really hopping on X in terms of, people speaking about being targeted. There's a big, huge community out there. So I urge you to create an account if you have not done so. One thing that we ask that you do this week is we urge you to write, physically write, PC, handwritten, however you want to do it, to the FBI, providing information about the illegal Denver operations, which is the Schriever base, where these frequencies and the targeting and directed energy toward us is coming from. And, also write about the global blacklisting and the placement within the Special Access Program, also known as USAP, because more than 278,000 in the U.S. alone have been blacklisted via fraudulent FISA warrants and are suffering from the directed energy attacks from the Space Force, organized stalking from the DHS fusion centers, V2K voice, and experimental implants and sex trafficking and subliminal messages from the cell towers and other horrific acts. This is a global crisis, and it is just not to the U.S., but the U.S. and other entities' involvement in doing this mass harassment and surveillance and torture around the globe. So refer to the draft letter for the wording for this letter to the FBI that is posted on Targeted Justice X page and the March 27th article on Substack. It's so important that you also include the printouts that are mentioned within those articles and the post. And I've also put that information on the Chosen Heroes X page, so you have that as another avenue for the information that you need to send. We also ask that you file a complaint about your targeting to the FBI. There are multiple ways you can do so. The FBI website is listed there. There is also an FBI internet crisis. I'm sorry, I have a typo there. An internet crimes complaint center. So that is www.ic3.gov. You can file a complaint in that manner. There is another one, FBI tips, as tips.fbi.gov/home. That is another way. So what we're doing is we're stating that we are the 278,000 that is being targeted, and we want them to investigate codes 3 and 4 of the terrorists, now referred to as threat screening database. They changed that wording. 97% of the TSDB is non-investigative subjects with no ties to terrorism per OIG. So why is it important for you to file a complaint about your targeting? It's so that we can FOIA the history of complaints and use it to prove that the FBI was covering up the reports. And on another note, Targeted Justice, the temporary web archive is listed on the screen. Targeted Justice has started the www.targetedjustice.org website. It's slowly, coming back to life. So just make a note to keep referring back to it. In the interim, you have so much valuable information that you can refer back to on the Targeted Justice archived website. We want to congratulate Harold Brems has joined the Targeted Justice team. He is the new VP of Central Europe. Welcome aboard. Harold, he has his own podcast, and you can find details about his podcast on TI Events and the Targeted Justice newsletter. And please visit the Targeted Justice Rumble page. We've got lots of translations of content being dubbed into a variety of different languages. You don't want to miss out on that. And always, tievents.org is such a great website. For those that are new to targeting, to those that are seasoned and been in it for a while, anytime that you are feeling down or need some support and want to help educate you by what our beautiful community is getting out on podcast and teleconferences, you've got every day of the week that you can join in because you are not alone. Okay. All right. So I also want to just put up on the screen, and I urge you, if you're not a digital warrior, help join in on the campaign of global awareness. We are trying to feed the public knowledge about these programs so that we can create that ripple, that wave of energy and truth that is going out into the world. Every day I strive to find and do different ways that I can think of to get someone new who may have never known about it. And then I get questions and they start reading the content on the Chosen Hero page, and then they are following it. This is what we need. We desperately need to get more people in the know about this. We in the community know, but we need to target and branch out to people who are not aware, because there could be somebody that is struggling, and then we have given this information to someone, and then they start hearing someone with the symptoms that we experience in our targeting, and then there is somebody that will be open to that person and not reject, which is the normal thing, right? Because the majority of the population doesn't understand this, and that's why we have to bring it. We have to take responsibility to bring it out, because waiting for someone else to expose it, we don't have time for that. We are on a mission. We have got to get this information out and not be dependent on anyone, because we are strong in unity together. All right. So I have some upcoming guests. Next week, DJ Chris, who is the weekly host of the Targeted West show, will be joining us. If you have not checked out DJ Chris's or participated in his calls, he also has YouTube videos of all of his talks. So I urge you to go and check those out. Such great content, great guests. April 13th, Doug from the gang stalking show will be joining us, and he'll be speaking about gang stalking as well. On the 20th, we have Valdemar, who is the VP of Latin for Targeted Justice. So it's going to be great. And then at the end of the month, Lindsay Penn, who is the host of Victory Through V2K and VP of PR and communications for Targeted Justice. If you have not participated in her biweekly call, I urge you to do so. It really is a special call. Yesterday, I kicked off and co-hosted with Jamie Rice the Targeted Individual Combat Training. It's a teleconference that is every other Saturday. If you were not able to participate, then please reach out to me on Chosen Heroes, chosen_heroes at proton.me. I have the recording. There's some homework in it. These are working sessions. We are building skills, a toolbox to combat mind control technologies. And that starts with the inner work and how we respond and react to the programming being done against us. This is the key that unlocks the door of your own hero within. So, Jamie and her team, she has 2 other team members, graciously is doing this at no cost for the community, offering to help those that are hungry for inner healing, and offering an hour session at no cost to just speak and give you guidance and walk through on like the homework that we're doing and the exercises that we do to take and build up to that cyber cryptic mind that counters these technologies. So again, if you want a copy of the episode from yesterday, the teleconference, you can email me. I will send it to you. And if you're interested in signing up for the next one, then please let me know. All right, so we're going to start out, as always, with a prayer before we get to our very special guest. So, dear God, I thank you. I thank you so much for this wonderful community, and I thank you for continuing to guide us each and every single day in action steps that we can take toward our own inner healing, and for always sending all the heavens above and the angels to protect us and to help counter these technologies and frequencies and subliminal messages and words that are spoken to us through V2K and the gang stalking tactics that try to invoke this powerlessness and this fear within us. Your sword of truth is cutting through all of the deceptions and the evil behind all of these attacks that are being done to us. And God, we are open. We have our arms outstretched to you, and we are asking that you provide us everything that is meant for us. And we believe in your power to create the miracles and pathways in our lives. And we trust that what we desire is on its way to us right now. And we are so grateful, God, for your guidance and everything that is unfolding in our lives. And we thank you. Amen. So I don't know about you guys, but this week has been a wild ride. Not only has it been, the typical attacks and such, but it has been, there's been a stirring, an emotional stirring within me, and anger has really been coming up as a result of it. And I'm like, what is going on? Just a sense of, overwhelmed in the anger, because when you're feeling overwhelmed and you're under attack by this program, then the fuse is short, but it seemed extra short this week. So I was like, what is really going on here? And then I had to sit, and this is some of the teachings that with Jamie Rice too, I had to kind of sit with it. Because when we try to suppress these emotions, when they come up, they're only gaining momentum and power over us. And guess who is trying to latch on to these emotional episodes that we may be having? And that would be the perpetrators of our torture and what they do and what their end game is, right? So when these things come up and bubble up with us, it's almost like you got to sit down, because your body and your reaction is trying to tell you something. And then what I did is like, okay, where is this coming from? Prayed out for it, asking my higher self, what am I missing? God, what am I missing? Give me information to see and to hear. What am I overlooking? So it started to come in, and the anger was a result of not enough hours in the day to do everything that I want to do and to help this community more. And, I don't want anyone to fall as a result of this suffering. And so I was getting really angered by that, and that, we are crying out for help, and people are not paying attention. And that was frustrating, and adding to my patience level being really low, and low threshold there. And then it started to bubble up to more anger about my mother being targeted. And she died being targeted and attacked. And I was still struggling inward about feeling guilty about that, because it was my targeting. They started with me targeting me. And I was, a caregiver to my mother. She didn't drive. So they began targeting her. She started getting the directed energy on her head, and the pain and in her extremities. And there, on occasion, she would hear and kind of see things, as well as we know that they do those things, but not to the extent of the V2K that what I was having. I was still the primary one they were focusing in on. But when you take an elderly person who is already gone through cancer, and they're being attacked on the head and their body as well. And my mom was always very sharp-minded. It was like attacked, and she continued in, until these attacks started on her so heavy. She still was working from home doing income taxes and stuff. But then her mind started to very rapidly decline. And as we know, these directed frequencies can definitely influence that. And when you take someone who's elderly and has already had some, is having chronic health conditions, then these frequencies can really exacerbate and accelerate that. So it really became very obvious to me, too, that I was still carrying on this anger of what they did for her. But this also fuels my fire for what I do each and every day for all of you, because I'm not going to stop. My voice will not, as long as there is breath in this body, I'm going to fight out against this injustice that is being done against all of us. And I do it for her as well. So, and again, if you've been experiencing, the anger like I have, we all struggle with it. Some days are better than others, but then it'll come up, and we got to look at these emotions as a teacher to us. They're trying to show us something. They're trying to show us where we need some healing, and that we need to surrender and let go. And that's where I felt a great release once I had the acknowledgement about this anger, and things started to flow better. And my body, I had a lot of high inflammation and swelling in my legs, and it got better after I had that release. So we don't want to run from these emotional triggers. We want to run into them, and we want to tap in and ask God to reveal, and to pray and meditate to get what we are not seeing in this. Ask yourself, just ask yourself aloud or internally, what am I not seeing? And then I will get words, just like single words, like my higher self is telling me, like a morsel of information, a key to unlock a door. So you can do that as well. And I'm going to bring up, I drafted up, if I could get my computer on board here with me here, a prayer. Hold on just a moment. There we go. I'm going to get out of full screen. There we go. So here's a prayer that I came up with and constructed for anger. And I'll put it on the Chosen Heroes. You can also email me for it as well. And it goes, Lord, I come to you in a time of anger, a feeling that can be overwhelming and destructive. I acknowledge that I am struggling with my emotions and need your help. Guide me to what I'm not seeing, hearing, and knowing in this moment. Help reveal to me what has triggered this anger within me, and reveal the source so that I see the situation with a clear perspective and can let go in order to heal. Help show me what actions I must take to become accountable for my anger. Grant me patience and self-control so that I may not react impulsively or say or do something I may regret. Forgive me for the time I've acted out of anger and hurt others. Help me forgive myself and those who have wronged me so that I can move forward with a clear heart. Fill me with your spirit so that I may have the strength to overcome anger and find inner peace. May your love calm my soul and guide me always. Thank you for your mercy and forgiveness. Thank you for being my constant source of strength, peace, and truth. In your name, I pray, amen. Another one that I find, if you want some quick action, but I'm going to say this disclaimer. Do not say this to God or the universe and expect to, sometimes it will reveal something so strong, and it may be uncomfortable, but it's what's needed. But I do this when I'm feeling blocked and stuck, and all you have to do is simply say, I surrender all areas of my life to you, God. I ask that you intervene and move things on my behalf for my highest good. And that's all you have to say. But sometimes when it's revealed to you, it may be uncomfortable, but it's necessary. So that's my disclaimer. But I do it often because I feel like I'm being blocked, like things just keep going wrong, and outside of just being targeted, but extra, So then I'm like, okay, I'm blocked. I need some intervention from God and the universe. So keep those things in mind. Just know that the hero's journey really does start from within, okay? And we are moving out of being victims into becoming warriors, okay? So with being a warrior, we've got to do some inner work and some clearing and healing to make room, okay, to get the good coming to us, because we're magnets. We got to start our day out with, either some affirmations and create the magnet of positivity coming into it. And we have to have gratitude at the end of the day. And we need to scan ourselves when we're, feeling extra anxious and stuff, and sit down and ask yourself, okay, what's going on here? What am I missing? What can I do? So what we're doing by doing these things is we're throttling the attack, and we're cutting it off, because we're saying, we want to focus on our healing and outcast the harm and the attacks being done against us. So without further ado, let's bring on our very special guest. I want to read a bio that Helen has provided. Helen Naidis is a linguist, a teacher, an interpreter, a TI, a spiritual world citizen. Working to reclaim our God-given planet. She has a bachelor's from Montpellier, France, and became a French teacher, also taught English and Greece, lived there for many years, and later taught English as a second language to Asia Pacific students coming to Australia. She has a master's of development studies in Melbourne, then went as Australian aid and development worker to Indonesia, and has worked as a Greek and French interpreter, Reiki and Hatha yoga practitioner. Great. I love the energy healing. Yes. And backyard gardener. And Helen, and for those of you that do not know or are aware, she is our Vice President of Pacific and Asia for Targeted Justice. Hi, Helen. Say hello to everybody. I'm so
Hi,
glad
everybody.
you could be with
Hi,
us.
Melissa.
Hi. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So before we get into the discussion about the Digital Warriors campaign and the success that you've had in such a short amount of time, can you explain to our audience today your targeting experience and what types of targeting have you encountered?
Yes. They've tried everything on me. But mostly they've continued with the home intrusions and the gang stalking.
Mhm.
And I think my specific MK Ultra program is what my grief counsellor announced to me after my father died. She said to me, everything that you have was bought by somebody else. And I said, oh, that's very Buddhist. And later on, I realized that every time they came in, they replaced something with something that was similar to mine. So that was personal things, ornamental, functional, things that I had created myself, crafts. They took my certificates. Yeah, they've just replaced my whole life. And I live in an environment where I just have to adjust and not pay attention to that and focus on the mission that you were talking about earlier until we move into a different phase, because otherwise I don't know where I would be. As far as other things, obviously that they worked on destroying my reputation, my work, they've eroded my finances, they've hacked and replaced my technology, all the usual stuff, the helicopters, the drones.
Mhm.
And they didn't attack me with directed energy weapons until I started attending Devon's support calls at Targeted Justice. They started hitting my heart during the calls. And also then during the night, they would attack my head at home. I had a few falls in the backyard, and I had an experience of not being able to control my arms and damaged a couple of things. But it's almost as if they tried these things on me and then just to see if they worked, and then they've backed off. They don't do that anymore. That's pretty much it. I have never had V2K though, apart from one night the neighbour was parked outside in the car, and I woke up at midnight and went outside because there was a strange noise. I said, and he was sitting there with his phone at midnight. And I said, what are you doing? I said, the police told you to do this. And he said, yes. I said, you should go inside. And I've also had tremors, the house trembling. So a bit of everything, but those things didn't last. I had the water company lady say to me, you're actually helping people. That's all she could say, because I was reporting this trembling, trying to find out where it was coming from, whether it was from the waterworks. So I think I'm starting to ramble, but I think what I would like the audience to take away from this is be noisy. Definitely be noisy. Make phone calls, write letters, speak to the neighbours, say what's happening, don't bottle it up. And people are starting to become aware. And it will reduce your targeting in many respects.
Absolutely. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? We have to be the squeaky wheel. Our voices are our most powerful weapon.
Absolutely.
And they try so hard for us to stay quiet and to recoil and to be overwhelmed and stay in fear. But with all things that are good, are born good and out of greatness, is the struggle. So the struggle for us is real, and we have to, force ourselves into getting out there and spreading the awareness. Absolutely.
That's right. And writing letters. I did a lot of that as well. I looked at the Targeted Justice website and the wonderful letters that are available there. And I sat down and I adapted those letters for Australian agencies and for Australian legislation. And I sent them out, and they have made a big difference to my life.
That's very encouraging. And for those around the world as well, as Helen suggested, tailor these communications for the agencies within where you know, live and reside in what country. Very good point. So with you, just a question with, since you're into Reiki as well, did you find that the energy healing really did help with how you managed um, the targeting experience?
Reiki and yoga and all of the spiritual work that you do when you study these disciplines have changed my life and the perception of who I am and how I sit in the universe. And without them, I don't know where I would be right now without those spiritual teachings. So when
Absolutely.
things get really bad, I just remember that I am in eternity. I came from source. Source gives me breath, and I will go back to source. And this too shall pass, this awful moment. And it's up to me how I perceive this moment. I can dwell on it and think about how awful it is, and that just amplifies it. And I know that that's what they want. They thrive on that. And I'm not giving it to them. I'm
Well,
worth more than that. We all
that,
are.
yes, yes. This whole process is, if we view it, I know if we go through such, you know, moments of torture, but if we can use it as a teacher to help, where we have the free will choice and it's completely in our court, is how we respond. And we can take actions toward educating ourselves of the manipulation behind this. One thing that I find is very important is recognizing patterns. These torture programs, the targeting experience is full of patterns. Just by recognizing the patterns, you are minimizing, you are destroying the power it has over you, because you're like, oh, there's that again. You know, you're recognizing
Yes.
everything is you. These things are like, you know, a lot of it is like how a computer program runs. Like, it's AI, right? It is learning from us and our
Mm,
emotional triggers and responses. And
mm,
then it's going to test us again on
mm.
that last emotional response. And then if it
That's right.
doesn't get that reaction, it's going to go
Mm,
back to the database and find one going down the list that is going to trigger you again to get what it wants, which is a
mm.
unfavorable reaction, stress, and suffering out of you. Just knowing and sitting with that information right there just destroys its power over you. And I know it's hard when you're getting physically
That's right.
attacked, but that's when you have to sit still with yourself and just
Yes.
remember that it will pass. And it does. And to not ever believe anything that B2K says. Okay. That's another one for those with B2K. None of it is relevant. They're going to try to bait you with a little bit, one tiny little nugget of truth, and the rest is all garbage. So just remember those simple things, and your life is going to get more ease into it just by recognizing the patterns. And the other thing is, recognize your own patterns and how you're responding, and do it different. So I know that in some of the questions that I had sent over to you, you had also said that it's important to still yourself and to breathe. Breathing is so
Absolutely.
important. Yes. Because I don't know about all of you, but when I get stressed, my chest gets tight and I can feel it very tight in my gut. So what that's doing is restricting the amount of air that I can even breathe in. And then what does that do? It deprives the necessary oxygen for the rest of the body. So sometimes we just have to get up. We got to walk, and we got to take those deep breaths and just make it a routine so that you can allow your body to calm down and to get that oxygen.
If I could share something that I do daily and
Yes,
sometimes more
please.
than once during a day is I have my yoga mat and it's positioned along the length of the sofa. And I've got a little cushion that I use for my head. And what I do is I put my bottom against the sofa and I swing my legs up and I just rest from the knees. I just rest them on the cushions of the sofa. And then I just lie with my arms akimbo and I just stay there. My yoga teacher taught me that when you lie flat along the floor, it separates the vertebrae of the spine and allows the blood flow along the nerves of the spine of the central nervous system. And you just get up 10 minutes, 15, 20. Sometimes you can fall asleep if you're very tired and you have the time. You can have a nap there. And in cooler weather, it's good to cover yourself with a rug because, of course, your body temperature will go down.
Mm-hmm.
But I do this. Sometimes I can do this 2 or 3 times a day, depending. And I always feel so much better. I
Yes.
feel energized and relaxed. And then I keep going.
That's very good. I need to do that more. And I noticed that when I do lay down um and like you said, it allows the energy to flow. We are energy beings, and there is so much power and healing in our hands too. Um Sometimes when I'm laying flat on the ground, because and Reiki taught me this as well, that the different points of the body and the hands, touching, like if you're having pain in a certain area, then just simply placing your hands over that and relaxing, you're telling your body you've got your energetic hands and you're just putting it on the source of where it's hurt, and it always feels better. It lessens it, because your intention by putting your hands there is, I need help here, and my hands are helping this area. um, just
You're
just that.
balancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like the this too shall pass. That is very important for
Mm.
us. We just know that everything is very cycle driven in these programs, and we'll be on the upside again. We just need to flow. Um, So would you like to explain and discuss some actions that you've taken to help your day-to-day targeting?
I wouldn't have survived if I didn't have my veggie patch out the back. I'm not very good. And I think they've also been spraying a lot because crops are just not what they used to be. But I do have my herbs. Herbs are very resilient. They're very
Mm-hmm.
strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had my herbs now for a while. So I use these herbs. I dry my teas for the winter. I've been drying now. And of course, I have the herbs that I chop on my salads and I put in my cooking. I dry the herbs for my cooking. I use them for medicine too, for different ailments, for cuts, for burns.
Mm-hmm.
And they give me a lot of pleasure. I grow all of my salad greens and my cooking greens because they tend to be the easiest. And yeah, I've got a couple of compost bins, and that gets me outside, that gets me moving, that gives me fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what I would have done without that. The other thing that gives me pleasure, creativity. You need to have a sense of achievement that you can still do things, which is what they try to thwart. They try to stop you creating and doing anything. So I've learnt to bake my own bread. I've learnt to make yogurt. I regularly make, I've got apple cider vinegar going on the bench. As I said, I dry teas, little things like that I consume myself, that I sit down and I think, oh, I grew this, or I made this, or
Mm-hmm.
that gives me a sense of achievement because they've taken so much away from me. And yeah.
Having that creative
You,
outlet is like nurturing your soul. So don't let them rob what your soul needs in that creativity and that expression. It's so important
yeah,
that we're able to express ourselves and to incorporate the things that we love in our routine despite all what's being done against us. Music is very therapeutic to me, and I have to have that disconnect and be able to hear it and the other things that you love. And sometimes, I catch myself, just not even going outside. It makes a big difference. Go for a walk. These are the things that we can do to help nurture ourselves and our well-being. So Helen, can you discuss your position and role with Targeted Justice and the work and projects that you're involved with? I know you are a really great digital warrior. So what led up to you finding and joining Targeted Justice and then becoming into the position and role that you are currently in now?
well, like every TI, I began in this crazy state of confusion and terror because I couldn't understand what was happening. And I started to look online, like a lot of TIs. I started to research. And I just happened to come across an interview with, I was listening to James Corbett Report, and I heard Catherine Austin Fitts, who has been a target since the 1990s. And she said, oh, if you watch that movie with Will Smith, Enemy of the State, I play Will Smith. And I watched it and I was saying, that's me, that's me. So I listened to more of her interviews and I learnt more about how this thing works, this program. And then I came across the term gang stalking in my research. And then I came across the website Targeted Justice. And I thought, oh, who are these people? And I looked down and I found Catherine Austin Fitts there again. I thought, okay, these people are for me. So I became a member and I started going to the support calls. I remember my first support call, it was just amazing just to be in a room full of people where I came in and went, blah, 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 blah. And people went, yep, 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 yep. And I thought, oh. And I went to my second call and I went, whoa, 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 whoa. And people are going, yep, yep. And I thought, oh. And that made me settle down so
Yeah, it
quickly.
helps so much.
So quickly, and just hearing everybody else's terrible stories. I mean, it was heartbreaking to hear them, but it was such a relief that I wasn't
Yeah.
alone, that all these things were happening to other people as well. These light bulbs going off. So that brought very quick healing. And
It's
as
so
far
healing.
as, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, to find someone you can relate with in all of this and to know that you're not alone. It makes such a world of difference. Like you said, it's so healing and
Absolutely.
therapeutic.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So as far as this digital warrior campaign, I just did what came naturally to me. I mean, that Targeted Justice website has, I don't know, more than 100 pages. There's just so much valuable information in there, so much good research. And so I just started taking texts and pulling them to pieces like I used to do when I was a teacher to
Mm-hmm.
present them to students, just to put them into slides with a visual. And it seems that people took to it.
Yes, very much so.
Mm. Which is
So,
good
yes.
because so much of the targeting community, I think, still is in a state of shock, horror, confusion, and terror. And I would like to see people move from that phase, because the information is there now, to a stage of knowledge, understanding, empowerment, and action.
Mm-hmm.
And we can
Very
do
much.
that. Knowledge does that. It moves you from that emotional state into your rational mind. And once you get a hold on what's going on, I noticed when you that lovely video that you prepared that was advertising our talk today, where you said what's going on behind the veil. Well, that's exactly right. What's going on behind the veil is being revealed. And because it's very difficult to red pill people in one go, it's just too much of a shock. What you need to do is give it to them in spoonfuls so they can assimilate it in spoonfuls. And I think that's what the posts are doing. And people have
Yeah.
time then with 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 lines to sit with that, to digest it, to put it where they need it in their
Mm-hmm.
picture of how things work, and then continue putting pieces of the puzzle together. It takes time because you need to process it emotionally too.
Right. Very important. It makes me think of the saying, you can't feed a baby a steak, right? Because they're not going to be able to digest
Yeah,
it. So it's really
that's
hard
right.
because we're in the throe of it. And that's such a good point, Helen, because I need to remember that myself. I'm an analyst, so I'm just detail, detail, detail. But for me to scale back, it's going against the inner part of me. But you're so true. If we're going to get more people, we have to condense it to very concise message with a picture because all the long
Yes,
stuff, it's going to overwhelm them, and give it to them in pieces, so that, like you said, so that they can process it and come to terms, and emotionally too, going, oh, is that really going on? Wow. And it gets the wheels turning. So very good
yes.
advice there. So you've been in the VP position for how long? Is it been more recent, or I think I've been on some calls where you attended, maybe the Victory Through V2K. I think you may have popped in over there one time or so, or it could have been a different
Um,
call.
the VP position, it's only been a matter of months. I did start running an Australian call. That's about 18 months ago.
Oh, wow.
People
Yeah.
didn't take to that very much. Mind you, we're a very small population, only 26 million in total. And the Australians are not they haven't been willing to come forward in that sense so far. So I'm finding that, and we also put out an advertisement for people in Asia to come as well. But of course, you've got language barriers sometimes there. People, even though they may have some English, they may not feel confident enough to come in on a call like that. We did have a couple of visitors like that. But I'm finding with the posts now, this digital warrior campaign, that people are coming in from all different countries, and the fact that it's in written form means that, I'm talking like a language teacher now, obviously, it means that they have the time to internalize it, to read it
Mm-hmm.
again, to digest it, to respond, like to put together a short message and write to me. It's different to speaking, which is so much more immediate. And I think that there's a lot more confidence there in this form of communication. So I think we're having a lot more success with this than we are with a call,
Yes.
a verbal call. Yeah.
I know that there have been people from Australia that have attended the Chosen Heroes podcast and wrote in. So they may have been the ones that were already connecting with you too. But this is why we offer such a variety of different ways of getting discussing and sharing on the targeting experience through podcasts, telephone calls, the conference calls, the Targeted Justice newsletter, the Targeted Justice page, the website, all the social media. So we've branched out, and I know that we have a team that is working on PSA campaign too. So if we could get that out on the airwaves, on the radio, just a public service announcement about it as well. I mean, we're getting it out there. And what our motivation should be, just, take it we don't know how the information is still processing within people. And we may not see, a lot of acknowledgement, but it's there. The information is there and it's processing within people. And then it's
Yes.
that permanent reference that's going to be inside of their brain, right? And then when they're ready, they're going to seek out more. And if someone else that they know within their circle is experiencing something like that, they have it as a reference there too of support. So don't be disheartened if you feel like there's not enough, tangible movement. There's a lot of things working behind the scenes, and that's why this is so important to have the
Absolutely.
variety. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So, do we want to go into now? Let's give some examples of these great, posts that you've made that have really captured a lot of attention. I've got some up on the screen here. So that very first one it's such a powerful image, because we know as a community what the young lady in the photo is going through with the torture being done to the head. It could be related to the V2K, which that's what this is about, but also the energy. It's still the directed energy coming at the head. So do you want to explain how you came up with the wording on this? And it got over 6,000 views to this one post.
So when I started, I had no idea what would get lots of views, but I just thought this is interesting. I took the image from the page, the V2K page on the Targeted Justice website, and I also just adapted the text. I took what was most important from that page, and it seems to me that it resonated with people because it's about personal experience. So when you ask me, what is successful in these posts, if it hits a spot for targeted individuals, like this is what I'm going through, this is what I feel like, yes, these words actually resonate with me, my personal experience, they're going to want to read it and they're going to want to repost it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's similar. And V2K, I think the V2K posts seem to have the most success. I think the V2K people are some of the most confused people because of all the lies that they're fed and the confusion that is stirred up within them because of the voices. It's not just my hands are burnt or somebody came in and moved my stuff around. This is voices in your head. And I think that would really play with your reality. So I really saw a big response whenever it came to V2K posts, a huge response. And I was really surprised when I posted, again from the Targeted Justice website, this second one here that mentions this book by a Professor Lim. It's like people wanted to latch on to some kind of truth, to some kind of reality, to some kind of solution to their problem. And they were just spreading this post like wildfire. People are looking for answers.
Yes,
Facts,
very, very much
concrete
so.
answers.
And here
And
you
from
provided
reliable experts, not just hearsay, from reliable experts that have done research. This is what they want.
in providing a reference of the book about the auditory effects of microwave radiation by Dr. James Lynn, that gives tangible, written,
Yes,
touchable
yes,
evidence that they, those of us who have had resistance from friends and family in receiving what's going on
yes.
within our lives, it's the proof right there that okay, why
Validation
are
of their
all these
experience.
yeah why are all these books out here being published about this effect of microwave hearing if it doesn't exist? So you just really have a remarkable gift about keeping it so concise. I wish I had that gift. I do not. I just over explain and put too much. But if I could condense it down to something so meaningful in just a couple of sentences, or, that was just two. Um, and look at the effect that it had. This is what we should all strive for in our posting. I know some things need a little bit more content to get the message across, but the visual is an eye catcher because they're going to see that picture before they see the words. So you got to get an eye grabber, something that's going to really,
Yes,
focus in on these images, and the images are very powerful, right? They lead you
that's
into the
right.
words. They first get your eye, then lead you into the words.
Absolutely.
So the one from
The
the
third one,
USAP,
yeah, I'm having trouble seeing that. Is that's the one that says that the government officials will be prosecuted if they divulge it? Is that right?
yes, so this one says USAP, the Targeted Individual Program, Unacknowledged Special Access Program. So you're giving the actual name of the program, right? Which is that's a key. Government officials who know about it must deny it exists, or they can be charged with a crime. As per the U.S. Constitution, all USAPs are illegal, as President and Congress should have total access. And then you pinned it with top
Okay,
secret.
so I think the hook here, I just Googled, did I? I can't remember. But I think the hook here is the top secret. I think people who see the words top secret like that are interested to read further.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fact that you see USAP at the top, that creates a question mark, doesn't it? Like, what is this? So then it's explained. And then I think is the a sense of outrage, I would say, at the fact that these officials are not allowed to disclose this information even to the president. And so I think this has great educational value for the reader as to how the government system is actually working. And that's all I can say now, because I think I'm getting I get that sometimes these days.
Yes, I'm getting it heavy on my head too. So,
Yeah.
all right, so we'll go to the next slide. This one here was just so moving to me. This first one where it says, "Expose the illegal CIA project against innocent civilians worldwide," and the lady, holding the sign up. I mean, that one was just so that one was just so powerful to me because it's such a global crisis that we're in right now.
Yeah, that's moving on to 7,000 views by now. I was really surprised. I never imagined when I put that together.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the success of that one is due to the fact that it begins with a call to action, expose, asking
Mm-hmm.
the reader to participate in the exposing. The word illegal, again, is alerting people to the fact that the government is not doing the right thing as they're telling us, as they're pretending.
Yes.
The the and the fact that it has the words, she has the placard that says "world." So people are rallying from everywhere across the planet now because they're understanding that this is an issue about humanity. This isn't just about America. It's not just about Australia. It's not just about Europe. It's about all of us in this together. We're all
Mm-hmm.
in danger. And we all need to hook up and fight this together in order to restore balance and reclaim our planet. And I think this image that I just found on Google Images, this is just every woman. I think this spoke to so many of us because it's just every woman actually going outside, taking a placard and speaking her mind and sticking up for herself,
Mm-hmm.
showing courage, showing
Yeah.
initiative.
Yes, because
And
there's
it's a very,
a
very simple
concept.
message. And
It is,
sorry,
but powerful. Yes.
but very
Part of
powerful.
this, yes, and part of this is if I act out against and I speak up against this, I may get attacked more. That's where you have to kind of sit with yourself. And I came to the realization that I'm going to fight with all the fight that I have in me to make this end because I know that if tomorrow is not given to me, I did the very best I could. And I used my voice and my personal power to stand up for the injustices being done across this globe to people that do not deserve to have this happen to them. So that's where you have to come to that, realization of what
Yes.
matters most, because we cannot depend on flesh or someone else to protect us. Those systems failed us, right? they those sworn
Mm.
to protect us have failed us. So then that means we have to take the action into our own hands and use our voice.
Absolutely. 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 And that's what makes our life worth living.
Absolutely. And then you have the post with Dr. Ronnie. How do you say the last name? Kyle? I can't.
Kilda, Rani Kilda.
Ronnie Kilda.
Okay,
She's
so
a
this
medical
post
doctor.
here, yeah, well, this was my intent here was to get people interested and make them aware that there is a gang stalking training manual. And
Mm,
all I did was introduce her. So the first line shows that we're talking about a person of authority that has credibility,
mm-hmm.
and that she is the one that initiated this, that divulged this information. Then I went looking for pictures of her and I chose this particular one because she had the microphone, which implies that she talked and people were listening. She wasn't just somewhere in the shadows. And she also in this picture looks very decisive and no nonsense.
Right.
Which gives her credibility. And I was hoping that people would be interested to go searching further by seeing this woman of authority and her a brief description of who she was and what she presented to the world, the information that she presented. So credibility. And the same goes for the next slide, where all I did was go to the Targeted Justice website and just copy and paste this powerful quote by the head of the FBI, and then go and find, of all the pictures that I found of him, I liked this one, again with a microphone, which means he was speaking out,
Right.
and the emblem of the FBI as well. So that's the one I preferred. And also the fact that the head of the FBI is saying that the CIA and the FBI are responsible for terrorism, that has a lot of shock value to people who believe in the integrity of the government agencies. So it shakes them up and it makes them start to question. It's red pilling them step by step.
Yes,
It's not
absolutely.
me telling them. It's the head of the FBI telling them.
Right. All right. So this one was about the president's security clearance is at a level 17, which you would think it would be higher, but then there are layers of the security clearance that he's not even privy to, right? You want to explain this one?
So again, I took the slide from the Targeted Justice website, and I know that people scrolling down a Twitter feed, an X feed, are not necessarily going to take this information in. So what I did was I just summarized it. The president's security clearance is at level 17. The MK Ultra targeted individual program. So if the person viewing this is a targeted individual, they'll immediately zoom in because they'll be interested, is at level 35. So it's up to them to look further and understand. You don't give them all the information, you give them enough information to make them curious to look at the table, to do the calculation themselves, to see the difference. And you've already said to them that the mind boggles, so they're going to be curious to find out, well, how does this work? And then they'll look closer at the table, but you've already invited them in, you've already helped them in. So instead of looking at the whole table, they'll just be looking at 17 to 35 and seeing the difference.
Yes.
You've done some of the work for them.
That was really clever. That was a great angle. I mean, so concise, and yeah, it just makes the mind just wander, going, what, you know? Oh wow, that's a really good one. Over 9,000 views on this one, and that's incredible. This is why I had to have Helen on, because she is so gifted, and to hear her describe it, everyone too. Look how much thought and attention went into creating this, and it was so precisely executed. Such great, valuable tips for us to, when we decide that we are going to make a post, to take these things into consideration, so that we're getting that clear, you know, line of information that needs to be digested out, and so that the viewer can begin digesting. This next one that you have too was a good one where you took Dr. Lynn Burr's post that
Yes,
the civilian report was delivered to the desk of RFK Jr. And then you forwarded it
yes,
on to other health ministers around the world.
yes, yes. So my choice was determined by the fact that, okay, so I'm in Australia. Then I looked across Asia because I'm the officer for Asia Pacific, and I found the countries that are listed there, and not more, because apparently ministers and health ministries are not necessarily on Twitter X. So these were the only ones I found in the Asia Pacific. And then I just added Greece and France because I have ties to both of those places. And if they ever decided that they wanted to respond, I'd be in a pretty good position to be able to interact with them. So I have a
Mm-hmm.
vested interest there, but they're not in Asia Pacific. And I really like the fact that right at the top of this message, Len Burr mentions that this report has been put onto the desk of RFK Jr. So that's the first thing that the chiefs of staff, or whoever would be going through the messages, would
Mm-hmm.
see. And this will, of course, elevate the level of the message and make them take notice. And the fact that people were, I was going to say CC'd, they were tagged, that other ministers from other countries were tagged, would also make them all um, take more notice of this message.
And that was incredibly smart to tag them, because you're introducing that information to them, and
Yes,
we know that the targeting is going on within those countries as well. They may have had people reporting this, and maybe now that there's this published paper on civilians with the Havana Syndrome and the AHIs, then it gets their wheels turning about their own population.
yes, exactly, exactly.
What
One
and
step at a
what they
time.
and what these posts too, they really, we know that there's a chance and probability that somebody will see one of these posts and forward it to somebody in one of the agency positions. And so you never know what may be working behind the scenes. Again, I feel,
Exactly,
it could be turning the hearts of those that have been involved with it. Like
exactly.
the one where the medical doctor, the chief medical officer, uh, Ronnie, for her courage and bravery to speak out, and they themselves are in a similar or a position. It may just start to get the turning, of their own hearts going, being at unease at the soul level because they know these things are going on and they're not taking action on them.
Yes, and I'd like to just say to the TIs listening to us that don't think that just because you sent a letter or because you made a phone call and you didn't get the response that you wanted, or you got no response at all, you just don't know. Like you just said, you just don't know what's going on behind the scenes and how you've affected that person and what they might do with that information. Never stop trying. Every drop counts.
Yes. And we're really creating the waves and the ripples of this information getting out there. What we're doing by continuing to do these posts and letters and podcasts and such, because the Chosen Heroes gets posted out on YouTube and Rumble, and then of course X platform. I don't know who, I see shares going on. Just never know where that information is landing and what's going on, because we've created such waves out there. And that's why it's so important right now to keep up the momentum in doing the posts and making the communications, because what we're saying is we're holding a firm boundary that we will not relent in this war against humanity, and that we command that our voices be heard and that these atrocities be ended once and for good. No one on this earth, no matter what reason is behind the perpetrators participating in this, you must understand too, and this is where it's hard to have forgiveness for those that are committing this, but they are often led into, some of these people a lie. Some people are just morally bankrupt and they like doing it. But then there are those that probably got led or misled, misinformation about how doing this to someone is really contributing to another, necessary good. So we don't know what all is going on there.
No, we don't.
But so
We
by
don't.
hanging on to that anger and the bitterness, we're only destroying ourselves. So we have to really just try to keep an open mind. Like I said, there's a variety of characters involved in what's being done to us. And one thing that was revealed to me is I think some people are probably a little misled to participate in some of these things, and others are
Yes.
incentive driven. They could get monetary, support from it, and they're morally bankrupt and they don't care. But again, you don't know what the universe and God is doing working on those people for taking that, you know, as well. So there's just this big thing, big picture running here. And by us taking action and speaking out and red pilling the public on this. And I try to go into different platforms, like some holistic doctors, some independent journalists that are really hungry for information, and just start dropping the information in different places. If I see just something that is somewhat relatable, just drop it on in there. And then all of a sudden, now somebody else has been introduced to this information. And I know that precision is key with these posts, especially when introducing to the public. So I need to be more mindful and appreciate Helen bringing these tools to us today on getting that information out in a concise way, because people are just scroll, and it needs to be something that is going
Yes.
to grab their attention. And the
Yes.
picture is the first, and then the words. So these are
And
excellent,
the other thing I would add, in your feed, if you have a sequence of posts that are pretty heavy and maybe on a theme, you've probably noticed on my page that, like yesterday, I took a lot of information from Dr. Bear, and I've been focused on Havana syndrome. So there are 6, 7, 8 posts on Havana syndrome. And then what I tend to do is look for something that's either beautiful or inspirational or wise or humorous and witty, and just pop that in as well to give people a breather in between before we go on to the next heavy, because there are a lot of heavy topics here to deal with and a lot of information to assimilate. So just like in real life, where sometimes you just need a giggle in between or a breathing space, to look out the window at some pretty flowers and then move on with the serious work. I think that is also important, because it just goes on and on and on and on. It can get people down, even if it is illuminating. Uh,
yes.
it's heavy work for the mind, for everybody's mind and their heart and their emotions. I mean, all these revelations, it's great that all of this is coming out, but it's a lot for people to deal with. That the degree of deception, it's very disheartening dealing with it, moving through it. And it has to be done at everybody's pace.
And for the general public, just knowing that, there have been so much that's been hidden, it really was hidden behind a veil. And they're probably, we have to take some consideration into we know about what it's like to be on the other side of the veil and nobody knows about us. But when now they're introduced to this new information and they're trying to come to terms that everything that they felt and believed in terms of the protection and their tax dollars and all of these things has been, you know, just imploded with this information that is very contradictory to what their beliefs were. It's like a double, you know, like two forks in the road, right? Either they're open up enough now to receive the new information that we just put out there too, and it's something else because now kind of the ground is prime for them to be able to say, well, if that was going on, now somebody's saying that this is going on, well, that may be the truth too, and I need to look into it. And then there's the other side that they're like, I want to, you know, just want to pull my covers over the head and not and pretend that I just didn't find out all this information because it's a little too much for me to digest. But at some point, they're going to have to get back up and get back in it because it's been like torpedoes of information coming out one after another about all of these things that are being revealed at that top level.
Well, some won't do that and they will be swept away. That will be part of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do anything about that. That's everybody's personal choice.
Yes. I mean, we can't, you know, we're doing our part.
You can't force them. Some will be swept away.
Yeah, some will.
Absolutely.
Because it's just too much.
Absolutely.
You can lead a horse to the water. You can lead a horse to water, but doesn't mean they're going to drink it, right? So we've done what in other words,
we do our best.
Yes, chase the momentum of just getting the information out. We don't need to have buy-in over, you know, who we're sending the information to, right? We're just getting it out there. Because if it's on somebody's thread and maybe that person doesn't have buy-in to it, but then the ones on their thread do, then we've won. We've done what we needed to do for the day.
Melissa, the way I see it is, I want to serve humanity, but I can't rescue.
Because that's at the free will of that.
That's the place I come from. Yes. I will serve, but I can't rescue anybody.
Mm-hmm. They have to want this for themselves too, and to do the
they have to want it and they have to work for it. Each person, there is work, individual work for every single one of us here for our salvation.
These are just such great tips. I feel really encouraged and empowered now to the next time that I sit down and write. And again, also and I see a lot of sharing from the posts that I do on the Chosen Heroes. Go to Helen's page as well and reshare those and maybe, you know, add a word to it or tag someone. I know that Targeted Justice put in their newsletter, here are just some examples of some of the tagging that you can do when you're sharing posts or creating posts. It's, you know, there's a wide variety. You can always tag Targeted Justice. That is, or Anna Toledo. You can tag the Chosen Heroes too. I've seen Dr. Burr's, his is listed there as well. There's just so many. You can get creative. You know, sometimes we're all doing the same ones too, but some of these were different that I have not tried, and I definitely want to incorporate some of those as well. So where do you feel do you feel like there is any kind of blind spot, maybe a subject that we haven't touched on in some of our posts that maybe we need to explore? Anything come to mind there? Because I know we've covered, you know, Havana syndrome and the anomalous health incidents. We covered V2K and gang stalking. I don't think you can ever get enough of that because people need to know about it. But anything come to mind that, would be something that we could introduce to the public that we may have not heavily so far?
To the public, not to TIs. Ah, there's just so much. I mean, the financial fraud, the
Yeah.
financial system that backs all of this program up is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is
The
just, it
financial
really is so
issues.
much. These
Yeah.
unspecialized programs, and maybe digging into the funding, who provides that funding. That would be a good one to get out there. There's just, it's been covered for so long, everyone, and now it's, the surface is being scratched on it. So there's a lot of resistance on that scratching. So we know that these are very, deep tentacles and roots, and these things have been going on for so long, but there's so many things flying in the air now and exposure as well. So we just have to make sure that we've got skin in the game here by spreading the messages out, that we're not just going to sit and wait for that, because there's so much investment, monetary incentive, wrongdoing, exposure, exposing a light on someone who's participated in this, where their life has been, perceived as pro-humanitarian, and then they're still participating in these things. So just think about all the scenarios that are there. There's so much involved to these, but we're just sending out that awareness.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for each and every person to recognize that we're all playing a role in this, that it's not just a question of the bad guys and the good guys. The fact that things have got this bad across the whole planet means that 8 billion of us are somewhat responsible in every way, whether it's the fact that we turned a blind eye because it was, like you said, just wanted to pull the covers over and not look at it because it was too hard. There are so many people who see it like that. It's too hard, and they just want to live a happy life. And the fact is that the planet was on the wrong path for a very long time. A lot of people were suffering so that we people in the richer countries could have a good life. We were living to the detriment of a lot of other people in poorer places. As far as all of this financial corruption. Yeah. So we're all responsible to a degree, and we need to, I think this is a call for every single one of us across the planet to stand up and take full responsibility for our lives, and not to want to be rescued or to want somebody else to fix it, because that has led to where we are now. A lot of the people who have stepped up to take control of countries, of governments, are just the very people that shouldn't be there. They're not the right people. And then the masses have just taken that opportunity to just enjoy their lives as best they could in a selfish way, to the detriment of others. I don't know. Am I making sense?
Oh, you're making complete sense too.
Good. Good.
I mean, a good example of the ones that see an event happening to another individual, and instead of going to that person in aid, they film it, but they're not helping a person who may be getting beat. I mean, this society, the way things have turned, is, oh, it's a filmable moment, it's a meme moment, it's a post moment, but where is the call to action to actually help the person that you're filming that's being attacked? So again, this is what we as a culture have turned ourselves into. Not all of us, but we have to acknowledge that that's where we're at. So we've got a real we've got some barriers to reach out to, because people are quick to post and quick to meme, but not quick to go to action. And and what we need for the around the world is people that are ready to take action, because this is, whether they want to believe it or not, is coming to a movie theater to them really soon, because this is a global issue where everybody can be tracked from these satellites.
Right.
And just because they're not experiencing the effects that we are right now in this given moment doesn't mean that they're not being targeted themselves from the satellites. So it really is a wake up call for those that are in slumber to come into terms with what really is being done out there. And those who want to just let everybody else do the good fight and take the benefit from all of their efforts too. This isn't the time to be lazy as a population around the world. It's a time for us to take action, because our bodies are being invaded with chemicals that have nefarious purposes, building in, that whole, path of nanotechnology, graphene, the Internet of Things, these chips, and all of this. We've got to stand up for our health and our bodies that are being invaded and attacked. And if we don't do that, then we all lose. We all will be overcome by this madness. So it's time for action.
Yes, it's a time for honesty. It's a time for discipline. It's a time for courage, because we're ready for a crash. And the people who are well equipped will survive, and the others will not. This is the way I see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite clear.
I know it seems like
So
we
we
have
need to
really,
stand tall.
yes, we have a knowledge advantage because of this experience that we were thrown into against our will. We didn't consent to this. But here we are, we sit in it every day. So the rest of the world, the majority of them not knowing anything about any of this, we do have an advantage by being done this way. So this is where you can shift your mindset and being, pro your wellness and well-being and your healing, to start coming to terms with that view of it and not stay stuck in the anger. But take that anger and turn it into action. And that is going to be for
Yes,
your best good, because we're all
yes,
fighting for the future. We're fighting for the children
yes,
and the elderly that don't have a voice or are not able to, and because there will not be good future generations coming from this madness. It will be destruction across the globe. And this is why it's a very important time for us all.
that's a very good point. Each time that I've felt absolutely furious, and there have been many, the best thing I can do that day is to say to myself, I'm going to use this anger to bring you down. And they're the days that I've sat down and typed out letters or picked up a phone or whatever, to taken a text and started to summarize it, to do something proactive with it, whatever. And I funnel that energy into bringing them down rather than just letting it gnaw away at me.
Yes, we can't continue to let it fester within ourselves like this, because it's only destroying it's creating high cortisol levels, which are connected to the stress. It's limiting our breath. I mean, it's just a chain reaction in our body that is giving way due to this madness of being targeted. So we just have to take the moment to reset ourselves and sit with it and get outside and get those creative juices flowing, turn that anger into creativity and getting the message out. Don't forget to honor your inner child. What made you happy as a child, going at and getting an ice cream cone, drawing, listening to some music, dancing. We have to get back, and we have to find ways in our days to bring joy and happiness and get a good laugh in, and watch a heartwarming story, do something to feed your soul and counter that negativity that's being done against you. Don't let them win. Helen, do you have any words for our audience? Any parting words? And we'll get to a couple of comments here.
I'd just like to say to everybody, don't feel despondent. Turn it into action. Turn your anger into action. Join us on the Spiritual Warrior campaign. Spread the word. That's all I can say.
Thank you so much, Helen. This has just been really enlightening. I will use the examples that you provided to us today, along with the other ones, to just kind of self-check before I go ahead and hit send. Do I have too much going on in there? Do I need to break it down a little bit better? So thank you so much for that. Such wonderful teaching. I'm going to bring up a couple of messages here. So Zach says, I wrote you guys. Can I give you my number or email to reach out? Our story can help your case. Zach, please you can write me at chosen_heroes@proton.me. If you haven't already, you can write tjustice2@proton.me. Yes, go ahead and send me that information if you haven't written to me. Thank you, Michael. I love that you joined us today. I really appreciate your attendance. And Michael also said to everyone, become a digital warrior. Yes, we are going to shift the energy from victim to warrior, and we're going to get out there and spread the word.
Yes.
And
yes.
Shannon says, thank you for what you are doing. This is horrible what they are doing to us. Yes, absolutely. But we are strong. Let's see. Let me find some more. Shannon also says about something with the stress they make causes you to feel suffocated. Yes, when they're attacking you with the energies, just remember that they're going after the central nervous system too. And then want to invoke that response of fight and flight and the stress and the survival mode. So it's very important when you're feeling that, because it happens to me too. I get hit a lot on the left side. Sometimes the throat and the chest will tighten up and the gut. You just have to force yourself and just override. Laying the hands is so important because you're telling your body, hey, this other stuff external, don't pay attention to that. You've got to focus on me, this vessel. You got to focus on it and start walking. Take the deep breaths to help calm you. You can try different ways to calm yourself, because that's how you have to move through it. Then ask yourself, okay, what am I not seeing? What can I do? And see what your internal self will tell you and give you some key words. And just breathe. You got to breathe through these episodes when you're being attacked and feeling like you're air and being suffocated, because it is triggering your stress response to withdraw and tighten up. All your muscles are being tightened. I have one of those vibration plates that you can stand on. It helps with lymphatic drainage or just exercising in general, and it just vibrates back and forth like this. So when I'm on that plate and I've been attacked, I just notice my body relaxing, and that tightening is just soothing. So sometimes I mix it up with different things. You can lay down, place the hands, just try. You've got to explore in ways that are going to bring you some relief when you're under heavy attack. Let's see. So Tracy asks, Helen, do you have some advice on how you handle the stalkers? Like you said that you get the break-ins and they move your stuff around. I think you had said that, you just have to focus on other things because, you can't get consumed with it. You have some other advice for those that the gang stalking?
So now look, I say this with reservation because each and every one of you listening, you have to have discernment and know how far you can go, what your position is. I know in my neighborhood, for various reasons, because I have written to authorities and I know that the authorities are compromised and they're trying to cover up, and I'm in a particular situation which allows me to speak more freely. So I actually confront my neighbors now because they're in hiding. And I have become quite loud. Now, this isn't the right solution for everybody, though, because you have to determine what your situation is. But yeah, I've become pretty loud, and I call them on what they're doing, and that has helped me. And they have retreated because I've done that, because they banked on me just bowing my head and taking it, and I haven't done that. So the neighbours are on the back foot now. It doesn't mean that they don't try things, but they're nowhere near as successful as they used to be.
Yeah, that's very good.
Everybody needs to, you need to sharpen your discernment. There's
Mm-hmm.
not a one size fits all here. Just like when you're interacting with people in the real world, what you say to one person is not the same thing as you say to another person. You need to hone your discernment. This program is asking you to hone your discernment. Don't go out there and say so and so Helen said or somebody else said I should do this, that. It's not a cookie cutter solution.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be assertive as you most possibly can without overstepping the mark, so you get yourself into trouble, and only you can determine what that is in every situation. But be as gutsy as you possibly can.
Yes, but like you said, don't cross the line, because then don't get yourself into a situation where you can be charged or with a conviction or institutionalized. So it's a fine line, but standing in your firm boundary.
And only you can judge it.
Yes.
Yes.
That's very sound advice. Pandora says that I've never been into yoga and similar disciplines. I've always been kind of skeptical. Nonetheless, due to various negative side effects of targeting, I recently started to practice yoga, and it helps a lot. It really is amazing. I know that I recently had started finding some videos and stuff on sonomic yoga, which is pretty basic poses, but it's all about relaxing and calming, the mind and the body. So yoga is just so good about doing that. You think that just being in those positions that it is not going to make a difference, but it really is. And there's all levels of yoga. From you could do yoga, chair yoga, wall yoga, couch yoga, all the way up to you get into the fancy positions that have a lot of core strength. But there's so much there. And Pandora also said sharing experience is very therapeutic. It is. And that's what is so blessed about this community and all the avenues that we have to communicate with one another. On the conference call I had yesterday, we were, stating we have to have a buddy system. So, when you're in chats and attending calls and stuff, you can tag other TIs and just say, hey, do you mind if I just reach out? And have a communication. It's okay to, we've got to build our our responsible
Networks.
relationships with others, that are going through the same thing. Our family, unless the family is going through it too, or someone else that is going through it, there's nothing like somebody who knows exactly what you're going through. And that's what's so blessed about this community. And let's see. Alan says, thank you, Melissa and Helen, for the encouragement. You're welcome, and thank you for attending today, Alan. Shannon says, thank you so much. This was very helpful information. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
And then let's see. We have one here. Redirect the anger and use it to fight back in a civilized manner. Exactly. We got to remain civilized.
Very nice.
And yeah, see the situation without emotion, discernment. Sometimes we need to take some deep breaths before we respond to things and sit with it a little bit, because if we're in that moment, it's easy to get really that knee-jerk reaction, and that's where we can get ourselves into trouble. So we have to know how to hone in the self-control component, because we're going to outsmart this, right? We're not going to do something that's going to endanger ourselves or another person, but we're going to stand firm in our boundaries and declare it and make it known.
Can I just share something? The lady that asked earlier about how I deal with gang stalkers. One thing that I've said to the very pesky gang stalker next door, I actually said to him, they're using you to get me either so that I'll act out against you, and so that I either go to prison or end up in a psychiatric institution, or I either kill myself. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give anybody the satisfaction of doing that. And he just looked at me. So actually just speaking the truth straight to their faces is very empowering. The people over the back, yesterday I hadn't been outside the whole day, and I decided the sun was going down, I decided to go out and do a few things. And the next thing they said, the gang stalkers from the house behind, the kitchen is right down the back. And so I just said in a big loud voice, go to the kitchen now and come out onto the back porch now. And I just heard somebody go, oh, and they disappeared. And then there was silence, because I hadn't heard anything from that house. Because this is the beauty of knowing what's going on. That's why I'm so grateful to people like Rowney Kilda and the Gang Stalking Manual, and anybody who's listening, if you haven't read it, get onto the Targeted Justice website and read the Gang Stalking Manual. Once you know exactly how it works, you can speak it to them. And that is so empowering for you and so disempowering for them. Sometimes that's all it takes. Telling them, I know what you're doing. And it just fizzes out.
Nothing cuts like the truth, right?
Nothing.
So
and especially in a loud voice, so that all the neighborhood can hear it.
Yes. Yes. I mean, you're standing your boundaries and you're speaking the truth. What can
Oh my
come
goodness,
back?
if I don't, nobody else is going to do it.
Exactly. And this is what we have to train ourselves too. We have to, this whole experience has really brought me out of my shell. I'm a natural introvert, and for me to be doing podcasts, that was something unthinkable. But it's the passion and the purpose behind this was more important than the fear or insecurity I may have had. I had to push my own envelopes. I had to push my limits, because there was a message to get out there. And this is where you can turn the tables on the insecurities and the fear that you've kind of, and just feeling that, resistance, that don't listen to the inner critic of being, it's going to fail. No matter what you do to step out in this action is going to be success. So what, and what we in spontaneous is the kryptonite to these mind control programs, because they have descended on your patterns and triggers like vultures, right? So when you step out in a way that you have done something that you've never done before, you have just debunked the AI. And I don't know if y'all have ever noticed this, but it takes a minute for it to catch up, especially with those with B2K. Because if I always like it's kind of like this thing. If they're saying, oh, such and such is going to happen if you do this and that, I just go do it anyway. You know how they say that cats will go and lay on bad energy? They'll just go sit on it. I'm that cat. I'm going to go lay on that bad energy. I'm not going to run from it. I'm just going to go lay on it. So, but because I've always kind of been a little feisty, but in terms of, public and stuff, I'm usually that one that was more withdrawn and quiet until people got to know me. This has really pushed my personal boundaries, and it's really liberating and freeing. You're getting yourself out of any kind of self-oppression that you have by, letting this experience be the fire that fuels you forward and pushing your limits. So in a healthy boundary way, right? Not in a destructive way. So we don't want to act out and do things that are going to hurt us. So
we can afford to sit on the negative energy, because if our energy is high, it overpowers the negative energy.
Right.
That's why we can afford to sit on it.
That's right. That's right.
And integrity, all you need is integrity. That's high energy, integrity. That's all you need.
And the truth and integrity, transparency.
That's it.
That's all it's all about. Yes. Then let's see. Bubby says, great show. My thanks. It has been extremely difficult lately. It is too hard not to respond when being hit by frequency that promotes aggressions. Yes, but it's in that very moment when you find you'll learn how to catch yourself. When you're getting hit like that and then you feel that anger and everything bubbling up, that's when you become very self-aware. Oh, they're doing this to me to promote this response in me. Here's my choice. I'm not going to engage in the way that they want. I'm not going to feed it. I'm going to take my measures that I'm going to walk. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to put on some music. I'm going to disengage. And I know it's really hard sometimes. And if you slip, then just get back up and go at it again. I found that you do a dance with this, right? Especially those with the V2K. It can be this way too, but it's the same thing with the directed frequencies. Is when you give the handshake, then you're doing the dance. And what you have to do is train yourself not to extend the hand, which is extending your power. You're relinquishing it over to this. And then you're caught into the cycle. And then you have to work with yourself to get yourself back out of the cycle because you did the dance. So you just need to go within. When these moments, just look for what you can do. Go into your counterattacks from it. Start asking yourself, okay, what am I not seeing? What is this all about? What are they trying to attack? What is the root of what they're trying to attack? Because remember, they're using your responses that they have stolen and acquired and observed on you to gaslight you with and to trigger you. So then you just ask yourself, okay, what is behind this? And you might get like a simple word or answer back at yourself, and then just dive in dive into that and sit with it, because that is destroying them at every single angle when you do that.
A simple response that might work for some of your viewers when you're being attacked in any way is to just put your hand on your heart and just go to the breath. Just take some long, slow, deep breaths, and that will most often calm you down. And so you won't have that response, and that will probably change what they choose to try and do to you the next time, because you don't have the response. But it's
Exactly.
the breath is very powerful.
And then another thing that they could do too is put the hand over the heart and go, I am safe. This will pass, and everything is working
Yes,
out for my highest good.
yes.
It's just a simple
Whatever works
reset,
for you.
a
Absolutely.
simple reset. And
Absolutely.
mm-hmm.
Take your
you,
power back. This is
yes, you
all
got to
about power.
moment.
Take your
And
power back.
it is, because that's what their goal is to take your
That's what
power,
they're going
take your
for.
voice, and make you recall to give
That's
up
it.
your life, to get you labeled and discredited, the character assassination that they do on us. We got to let that go,
Mm.
because our work and our word and the product of who we are will speak for itself. And I had to learn that the hard way too, because I'm like, why would somebody
Yep,
say all of these things and these lies about me? And it was so wounding to me. But then you are responsible for your own legacy, right?
that's right.
If you did good work and good product work, then it will stand for itself, because it was done in honor and integrity. And these and
I would
anyone that
say
would
two
buy in.
things, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
I would say two things. One, you know that you're basically a good person of integrity, which I think most TIs are from my experience. And
Mm-hmm.
two, you're only human and you've made mistakes and you've mucked up in the past, because everybody does and everybody has, and you probably will again. And you just have to forgive yourself for that, because human beings are not perfect, and you just try better. And once you've dealt with those two, what anybody else thinks of you is none of your business, really.
That's exactly, because when you go through this experience and you're growing and you're doing self awareness and healing for yourself, you will find that it matters less what other people think. And it's a really beautiful
You
thing.
can't afford to. There's
you
no
know,
space left for it.
it's no space, right? You
There's no
got to
space for it.
and you just got to let that go. It just let it roll off of your
Yep,
back. You know,
yep.
that
There's
it's
too
a
much else
time,
to deal with.
it's a time trap. You could sit there
Mm.
trying to change the mind of that person's opinion or whatever, and it doesn't matter. What matters is what is
No,
best for you, and getting your life back and gaining, control over it, and for your own good, and for the mission of getting this information out. Just like you don't have time for the naysayer stuff. Just let it go and keep on, just be laser focused on the mission of ending the program, getting the information out, and being supportive to the community and others. You know, can't we don't have time to attack each other over things either. That's part of the programs, trying to create divide, because we're making a difference. We're making waves of awareness and truth out of truth, integrity, and heart, and that is just too much. So then they want to try to self-sabotage from within and turn people on each other. We're all in the same fight. And I say this all the time. We're all in the same fight. We don't have time to engage with others. We just need to keep our focus and not get sucked into a trap, which is this faux divide that these frequencies are happening, are creating within us. So when you see that going on, just drive on by and keep on focusing, and because there's that out there too. But we got too much work to
A
do.
line that works for me these days, it just came naturally, is when I get overwhelmed out of whatever, I just say, hang on a minute, will this matter when I'm dead? And the answer is always no.
Yeah. I mean, that
It's
that is
never
a
really
real
that
perspective.
important.
It's not that
Yeah,
important.
it's not. It's never that important. The answer is always no. It won't. So I just say to myself, well, let it go. Move on. Focus on, do
I
something now. Move on.
Yeah,
You
I
got to
catch
talk to
myself
yourself
in
like
that
that.
too. You know,
Mm.
because I battle with, because I'm an analyst, I have this little self, this perfectionism thing, because every detail, right? I have to catch myself in these times too, going, just let it go. It
Yeah.
that Let it go. Just let it go. There's too many other things better. They're more
Very
important. Like you
much.
said,
Yeah.
that is a good perspective shifter too. Is this going to matter if I'm dead? No.
Yeah. When
What
I'm
matters.
gone, this will be nothing. This will
Yeah.
be a nothing burger.
Yes. That's why, to me, you have to lead your life in a way that you reconcile your heart now, and so that if tomorrow doesn't come, then you're good. And that's what matters
Mm.
most. You got to really listen to your heart and not get swept up in things that don't matter. It's very
Mm.
much on my heart to help the community and get this information out for all of us. Like I said, a passion driver for me in this too is knowing, my mother experiencing this as a result of my targeting is a big motivator, in addition to seeing what has happened to so many people. This is why I do what I do every single day and every single week on the podcast. So these are the things that matter most. Getting buy-in from, a longtime friend, and things. It's taught me that everything has a time, a season, and a reason. And when a door closes, don't try to
Yes.
reopen it. So just let it stay
Yes.
closed. And if it's meant to be, it'll open again. And if it's not, then you'll find that when you let it go, then something more better comes along as a result of it, because you're not chasing the past. You're not chasing a closed door. So that's good. Something to consider. Well, Helen, thank you so much. This has been so
Yes.
enlightening. You're such a beautiful soul, and this was a good exchange of information and such
Likewise.
empowering words. So, again, I really appreciate your time today, and I appreciate everybody who's
Thank you for
attending,
inviting me.
and everyone who may attend at a later time. But God bless and stay strong. We got it, and get the word out. Thank you
Amen.
so much, everyone.